So I am Aaron McRill. I'm the head coach for the Carmel Girls Greyhound track and field team. Specifically, I am the middle distance and distance coach, but I oversee our whole program.
Tell us about some of your accomplishments so far as a coach. Give us a little rundown or a little sprinkle of what you've been able to achieve as a track and field coach.
Oh man, well, I haven't won the big one yet, which is the outdoor state championship. It's one of the hardest things in the world to do to win a track championship. We've won the Hoosier State relays a handful of times. We were last year's champion and the year before that. Multiple relay champions. We are the defending state champions in the 4x4 the last 2 years, which is exciting. We've had a couple individual state championships. We had a girl win the 1600, Phoebe Bates in 2018. But more or less, we're just trying to get that final step. We're consistently in the top 10, consistently in the top five. It's just those next couple steps we're trying to get there.
What
Yeah.
do you think that the extra little pieces are to get there for those?
For us, it's going to take multiple kids in multiple areas. We don't have that one just superstar or two superstars that's going to win multiple events. Nowadays, you got to score 45 to 60 points to win it. So we're going to have to do it all over the board. So for us, it's just having the right pieces all show up on the same day at the same time. And that's what it's going to take. I mean, easier said than done, right?
Right, right.
Yeah.
Huh.
So that's kind of what we're shooting for this year. We look pretty good.
Hmm.
We've looked pretty good the past 2 years, but I think if we're gonna do it, this is gonna be the season.
Where'd you finish at this year?
We are
Like
fifth.
you're fifth?
We tied for fifth. Yeah.
Okay. Now one other thing I would have to say it's an accomplishment that I think you missed. So
Oh,
well, I'm just a little background. Since we actually coached together back
yep.
then in 2018, that was our last go round together. Now, that was the first time I've been on a team or part of a team where everybody who qualified for state left state with a medal.
14 kids qualified,
Wow.
left with 14 medals.
Yeah,
Wow.
I would
That's
say
a big
as
deal.
yeah, because that rarely happens.
Ever. That's a big deal.
But it didn't win, so there's that. That's which is
There is that.
insane.
But that was like it was a 3 point thing. Wasn't it 3 points from?
First place was kind of out of reach, but were we fourth that year?
Yeah, it was
Points
fourth
out of
by.
second.
We were 3 points away.
Yeah.
3 points away from being second.
Gotta bring that one up, huh?
Yeah. Still stings, I know.
Yeah, that was the one where we had the storm in the middle of the meet, and Jermaine
Oh,
ended up in a portalet hiding.
mm.
You had to bring that up.
But yeah, no, that was a good one. And also that year was the very first year the Carmel Greyhounds had scored in the 4x1 relay.
Wow.
That was
And
Right?
now,
impressive.
Right?
It was. Who was that coach? Yeah.
Oh, that guy.
Uh,
Who was you? Good job. We're proud of you.
that's your shoulders on for them. Coach, how did you get into coaching track and field?
So wow, it's kind of a convoluted story, but I had been blessed to been coached by some like Indiana legends, Tim Milan, uh, Chuck Keppen. If you're a distance runner, everybody knows who Chuck Keppen is. Um, Carl Kinnear, who coaches at Brebeuf. He was one of my coaches in high school. So I've always had great influences on coaching. I took 10 years running, 10 years off of running. Once I graduated high school, did that whole thing, put on a little weight and whatever. I had a friend of mine call me and say, "Hey, you want to start running again?" And I said, yeah, great, let's do that. And we were putting around forever. And then we decided we needed some actual goals. So we started training for marathons. And during those marathon trainings, it's about 3 hour runs or whatever. We would always talk about high school and what we would do and how we would do it. And it just kind of went on and on. And then my friend applied for a middle school job, got it, and said he'd only take it if I was the assistant. And this is for cross country. So we both started coaching middle school cross country, and then I became the girls' head track coach that next season for the middle school. Did that for 5 years, and then I'm on my 11th year for high school. But that's just kind of how it started. A little longer than that, but that's the shortened, abridged version.
Has it been 11 years?
11 years at Carmel High School, yeah. 2015 to 2025, it's 11, right?
Yeah,
Not great at math, but that's 11 seasons.
yeah. Gotcha. Um,
Yeah.
so as you went through the track and field program over the years, what would you, since you're in going into season 11, how would you say it's grown, changed? What's different about it now? What's what's
Well,
what's it evolved
you
into?
you know this from when we started. You were there my very first year, 2015. Um, the program at the time, and I think everybody kind of knows this. Carmel is known for cross country and known as or was known as a distance school. My main goal going in there was to change that. Not an easy thing, because you don't win state championships with just distance kids. I mean, you don't. You need sprinters, you need jumpers. Um, those are where the points are. So when I brought Jermaine in, my sell to him was, hey, you know what? Like it's from scratch. You get to do it your way. And that's kind of how where it started. And where we've ended up, I couldn't be happier. Funny enough, one of the kids about a month ago, we were talking about cross country and track, and the young lady said, she goes, we're a track school. And that is the first time I had ever heard Carmel be called a track school. And, I never really thought about it until then. And I'm really proud of that because we have worked hard over the past 11 years to change the perception that Carmel is just a distance heavy school. Now, we still have great distance kids, um, but they are now complementing our great sprinters and jumpers and throwers. So that's how it's changed. It's changed a lot.
Yeah. And we know the athletes clearly how you can connect with them has changed. So what's your philosophy when you're thinking about your training for the year or training during off season? How do you approach it?
Well, I'm hands off for cross country in the off season now. I used to coach cross country, so I let the cross country coach handle that. And then we get into the winter. We start with low mileage for the distance kids. The sprinters are working on technical stuff and starting to get in conditioning. Um, but our philosophy is that we make sure that each kid gets what they need because every kid is different. Every kid is motivated different. It's a challenge for us because we do have a very, very large team. Typically, we have about 130 kids.
Wow.
And my philosophy has always been if you come to join the track team, you're going to get coached. Um, it is a challenge to balance it out, but I feel like we do a really, really good job to individualize as much as you can with 130 kids. Um, but we just want to make sure that everybody's getting what they need on the team. And yeah, your varsity kids are going to get most of the attention, and that makes sense. But up and down the board, we believe that kid towards the bottom is going to push that kid in front of them, going to push that kid in front of them all the way up to the top. And we feel like it works pretty well.
Okay. So you have a system for bringing on your newcomers and molding them into the team.
We do. What's great about us is that the middle school programs are pretty large too, which is great for our feeder system. I think typically there's about 100 kids on each middle school team, and in each middle school, there's 3 middle schools. So, talk about 300 kids. We don't get all those kids because they go and do different things in high school and realize track or running and actually working hard is not for them. Um, But yeah, we bring those younger kids in and kind of try to show them like, hey, like if you push your teammate, that's only going to make you better. And some kids buy into it better than others, but by the time they're seniors, we hope that like, throughout the program, they've become embracing the fact that, they're only getting better because their teammates are pushing them.
I think that's great. That helps you create a sense of culture amongst the team. I mean, we're talking 100+ kids on the high school team, but 300 in middle school. So being able to plant those seeds in middle school is really important. Um, what are some key things you focus on when it comes to development for your athletes, both on and off the track, right? Because, always as a great coach is going to want to teach those life skills to their athletes as well. So what are some things that you feel have really been important to your coaching?
Right. Personally, it's confidence on and off the track or field. It's having fun because if you're doing something and it's not fun, it's not worth doing. I think a lot of people have heard that before. And it's hard for a high school kid to hear this and understand it now, but it really is just high school track. It's your world right now, but in 30 years, it's not going to be your world. And it's only that 0.001% that, are running the Olympics or, really making money off of it. So we try to keep them grounded, but at the same time, like and we want to make them stronger, but like, most importantly for us is what happens after track and field is over at high school. Like, are they a productive member of society? Are they having fun in their life? Are they achieving those goals? And we try to set those seeds early as freshmen, because as you kind of get through the high school program, we hope we make it less stressful by the time they're seniors, because the new kids come in and it's just like, oh, because it's totally different from the middle school. But yeah, we push on the confidence, having fun, and hey, it's important, but it's not the most important thing in your life. It shouldn't define who you are.
Okay, I got now with that. So because it's like you said, the newcomers,
Mhm.
how do you like walk them through the season in terms of how do you keep them strong? How do you keep them improving all throughout the course of the season?
Right. The tough part is for the new kids, especially the freshmen, they're gun ho. They want to go 100 miles an hour from day one. It's a long, long season. So I try to break it down to them in a couple ways. There's 3 segments to the season. There is the indoor portion of the season. It's fun. Uh, if we win, great. If we don't, it doesn't matter. That's not what we're shooting for. That's our conditioning phase. Then we get into our middle phase, which is basically right after spring break. It is like 3 meets a week for 4 weeks in a row.
Wow.
We're trying to, not all kids will run all 3 meets. We're not doing that. We'll put some kids in one meet, some kids in another. And then, with a team our bit that big, like it's easier for us to do that, but it is harder for us to find competition throughout the entire team, because you can run against a school with great distance runners, but their sprinters and jumpers aren't so great, and then vice versa. Then it happens with every track team, trying to find competition all the way around. But we divided it up into that second season where you have all these track meets or whatever, and then there's the postseason, which you got to realize once that middle season is over, you still got another month of training, and so trying to get those younger kids to understand, like, hey, you know what, we need to not push so hard now, so we'll be stronger when it counts. And it's a process, but they kind of get it as they get through it. But you do get some tired kids when it comes to late April, early May sometimes, and you kind of maybe back off a little bit to try to refresh them if you need to.
Yeah, that's strategy in itself. Helping
Right,
them to you want them to continue the excitement, but at the same time, you don't want them to burn out
right.
for when it really counts.
Right. And I can
This
understand getting excited for that indoor relay. It is fun to win and it's a good
is,
stepping stone into the season. But to be peaking at that time is not it's not good for anybody.
yeah, yeah. And I think everyone was excited to be at the fairgrounds
Oh, what a beautiful
this
facility.
excited that that'll be um our continuum for our indoor statement. Can you tell us about a story where, someone just exceeded, they did above and beyond what you expected them to like how you expected them to perform either this season or any previous seasons where they just wowed you in a spectacular way after overcoming some various challenges.
Oh man, we have so many of those stories. This season, not so much. We kind of expected, kids to do what they're supposed to do this season. I guess one kind of jaw dropping for us. We have a young lady named Larkin Taylor, freshman. She's on the 4x8 relay. They finished runner up this year. But her leg during the state meet, I think she took off 4 seconds off her PR.
Wow.
So she went from a 217 to a 213.
Wow.
Wow.
And if anybody knows the 800, that's a lot.
Yes.
And she got done. I was like, "What were you doing all season?" And she just laughed. But like her leg, she got us back in the race, and it was phenomenal. But yeah, that kind of sticks out in my mind for this season. There was a young lady, and she's probably pretty happy I dropped her name. Jermaine knows her well. But she was a hurdler I had in middle school. And she came on, you know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And Jermaine told me she's too short. She can't do it. And she ended up finishing what, seventh, I think?
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Seventh in the state in the 300 lows.
Wow.
So I mean, I knew she was good and I knew that like she was really, really tough. But that was pretty exciting too.
And that was her
But she
second year running, I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
and her only her second year ever running
Wow.
hurdles.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean that's talent. Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
he mentally was is still impressive.
Yeah.
Those are kind of a couple stories that stick out.
Yeah. Huh.
I guess
No.
another one would be Phoebe Bates winning the 1600. Uh, the favorite was supposed to be the favorite, and she just kind of hung around until 200 meters to go and just whipped around two girls to win. So that was pretty exciting too.
Yeah. A lot of cool stuff you get to see
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
in high school
our 4
track
by
meet.
4 this year. That was exciting. Remember that one?
Oh, don't do that.
Emily
So
Norris
we'll
dropping
go
a
ahead and clear the
55.
air. We had it, so we are at North Central. We had it, and you came and got it from us at the end, right at the line, which was it was a great race. I'll give it. It was a great race.
55, man. That's hard to whew,
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah, it was. It was exciting because it was a surprise for everybody, right?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was. It
Yeah.
was. Oh,
'Cause, yeah, we were hitting on all cylinders that day.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. I did not know North Central was going to be there. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah, we surprise.
Yeah.
Right. We made them believers. We
Yeah.
made them believers. So with leading into that, you didn't really know we were going to. How do you prepare your athletes for big meets and thriving under pressure? Because mentally, we know that is a huge piece of how successful or unsuccessful an athlete will be. So, do you have any rituals or kind of do you eat specific food or do you guide them in a way that helps them get their mind right for competition, big competition?
Right. So, we push our staff, amazing staff this year. We push positivity on the kids, starting with us as a staff. I told them, if the kids look at us and they don't see us as a team, well, how are they supposed to believe that they're a team kind of thing? We we kind of push on them to like, hey, you got to lean on each other, especially in the state meet, because you don't see them for 30 or 40 minutes when they're in the tent. So you can't
Mhm.
be there to give them the last minute, coaching advice that they need or whatever. So they got to lean on each other. But we push positivity. We say, hey, the big meet, yes, but it's just another meet. And if you do well, great. That's awesome. Good for us, good for you, good for the team. If you do poorly, you have another race coming up. And are we going to love you any different than if you did, if you win? And no, it's the same. We're going to love you the same. We care about you the same. And we move on.
Mhm.
And same thing if you win. Like you just can't live off of one win. If you win
Right.
something, you can't go into the future. Well, some people do that, but you shouldn't do that. You got to move on. There's another race ahead. So celebrate when you can celebrate. If you need to cry when you need to cry, do it. But we're going to move on. But we hope that they know going in that the pressure that they put on themselves is not from the coaches. We're not trying to do that to you. Um, and know that we'll be there for you, win or lose. So
Mhm.
I hope that kind of helps take the pressure off them a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm. Well, that's cool. Well, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Now we know no there are no track coaches that get into the business for the money because
What? I work at Cornwall.
it's just not there.
I'm just
So
kidding.
so you say you're at Carl.
Yeah. No, that's not true though.
I know, I know. Uh, but I do have to ask, what is it about the sport that you love? Because I haven't met a track coach yet that is just like that doesn't love the sport and is not willing to like help out other coaches and other kids, and it just like
Yeah.
doesn't matter. It's all about the sport. So, what
Right.
is it about the sport that you love?
The chaos of it. Um, I think that personally, I have a chaotic personality to some aspect. Um, so I love being in the middle of the meet where and maybe this is more of a head coach thing, is where the meet is going on and I have somebody trying to get me to go over to pole vault or the four baits getting ready to start and something's going on a long jump. And I love putting out all the fires and being
Mhm.
there for all the kids. And the other part of it is I'm a distance runner. So clearly, I'm not very athletic in any other aspect except running far, maybe at a decent speed. So I get to be a part of all this stuff that, what, I can't hurdle, I can't long jump. I'm definitely not running down a runway with a pole in my hand trying to flip over another bar. I love being part of all that stuff and not necessarily being in charge of it, but I do like the pressure within a meet of trying to figure out the meet as it goes on. Um, but it's just great being around the kids too and seeing them succeed. It's a blast. I don't know how you cannot love track and field.
Well,
If you
especially when you like the chaos, that's different. Like I like that response. You love the chaos, so you like trying to be in five places at once. So you're definitely getting your steps in. Probably not enough as a distance expert.
I don't know. I'm 50, so some steps are enough nowadays.
no, you have to get more now. It's
Uh,
more now.
yeah, I
So you
started.
definitely put your cape on at the meets for
Yeah,
sure.
well, I've been training for a marathon in January, so I've been getting plenty of steps.
Oh,
Wow.
nice.
Oh, wow. So it appears that we see it at meets as well, the team camaraderie, how the coaches engage with the athletes. Do you involve the parents, and if so, or your local community in this space? And if so, how and why do you feel it's important if you do involve the parents or community?
I get myself in trouble with this answer. Yeah, we try to involve the parents as much as possible. I would say that sometimes the parents want to be too involved though at Carmel.
Absolutely.
Um, so we try to have a good balance of,
Mhm.
hey, we want you to be involved with your daughter. Um, but my philosophy has always been, and I tell this to the parents, like, hey, if you want to talk to your daughter, that's great. Like, but I don't want to hear from the parents about
Mhm.
a change or wanting to try something else. I want to hear from the kids.
Mhm.
They're
Mhm.
in high school now. I want to hear from them. They need to have their voices. That's the only thing I really say about that. But as far as community, yeah, we have great parents. Our parent
Mhm.
club is amazing. Um, they do amazing things behind the scenes. They try to do all this stuff for the kids. And as you know, it's hard for a track team to have camaraderie because of the different,
Yeah.
disciplines. Usually your throwers are with your throwers, your jumpers and sprinters are doing something else, your pole vaulters are off over here.
Mhm.
Distance kids are doing something else. But our parent club does a great job of trying to do fun stuff with the kids to bring them all together, so we can be a team. So yeah, we have great community.
That's great. And that's it, it can be chaotic too to get the balance between the parents understanding involvement versus overtaking the coaching philosophies. And
Right.
I think it's great that you also encourage your parents to let the athletes know to communicate with you all because that's a life skill that's really important. Mom
Right.
and dad will be there if you want to compete in college. And
Correct.
it's not that they can disclose. So I think that's a uh,
Yeah. I
great.
always when we talk about colleges with the kids, I say, hey, the best thing that you could do is reach out to a college coach. I'm not going to reach out for you.
Mhm.
I will champion for you if you reach
Mhm.
out to the coach first. But yeah, it is a life skill that I think should leave or learn, and we try to push that on the kids early.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Right.
Well, that's cool. So with your kids, like, how do you? I guess you're at a huge school, and
Huge.
yeah, and you have a bunch of other sports going and kids doing going in all different directions. How do you attract? How do you attract the talent? And then how do you keep it? Because there's my friends play soccer, my friends play
Mhm.
lacrosse, or they're all in the same season. So how do
Oh,
you like attract those kids, keep them, and then making sure that you have an opportunity to even develop, some talent. So you get a freshman or a sophomore that's decent. How do you keep them from, oh, my senior year, I'm just gonna play soccer?
soccer is my nemesis. Love the soccer program. Great coaches. It's the club soccer that's the tough one.
Mhm.
Um, we try to make track as fun as possible. And, a lot of kids here, oh, all you guys do is run. Well, no, obviously you don't know what track and field is because there's a whole bunch of other stuff to do.
Mhm.
It's getting them in is the tough part because getting them away from soccer and lacrosse, it's a hard thing to do. But I think once we give a kid a taste of our team, and especially a kid who could be successful, um, they buy in almost immediately. Like I said, we have a great group of kids. They're amazing. So it's hard not to have fun in track. And the great thing about track is there is a spot for everyone on our team. It may not be a sprinter and it may not be a thrower, may not be a pole vaulter, but whatever. If you want to show up and work and be part of a team, there is a spot for you. So I think that helps out a lot.
Mhm.
But yeah, it is tough to get kids in, and that's something we still struggle with. Coach Teddy, Teddy Rogers, he does a good job of going to basketball games and volleyball games and uh, trying to get the next, well, for him, the next hurdler. He loves the hurdles.
Yes.
But but trying to get the next like jumper and the next long jumper, the next high jumper. Distance kids typically are distance kids. They're distance kids in middle schools or distance kids in high school. It's rare that we get a kid that comes from like the basketball team or something. We could get a soccer player, but that really happens too. But that comes from another team that contributes to the distance portions of things. But it is those other sports where you're going to get jumpers and throwers and sprinters, and
Mhm.
he does a good job of trying to recruit that way. Uh,
Mhm.
and he talks to the other coaches in the school and see if they're interested. But the club is kind of the big deal for us, where it's trying to get kids away from club volleyball or club soccer,
Mhm.
club
Mhm.
lacrosse. I'm sure that's the same with coaches across the state.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have
I was
you
gonna
ever?
say if you have any strategies, you should share it right now because
Right.
then you have the magic potion.
I've got
Of,
nothing. I thought you guys were going to tell me something.
We wish. That is like the biggest, and I don't even know where that came from. Like, how did it
Right.
Mhm.
all of a sudden become the thing? I remember, like, back in our day, you played multiple sports, and
Right,
it was okay. And you just,
right.
if you were good, you were good. You didn't have to specialize and play all year
Yeah,
round one sport.
yeah.
Like, I'm
Mhm.
not sure how that. If you're an athlete, I'm not sure if that makes you better. To be
Right.
honest,
Mhm.
I think it makes you more prone to injury
Mhm.
Right.
because you lack the mental and physical challenge of different motions and different
Mhm.
styles of competing and stuff like that. So it's and I don't know who made that a thing though. You know,
Yeah.
you had a few outliers who did one thing and they did it well, and then all of a sudden everybody else was jumping on board.
Well,
Mhm.
that's kind of the same with the private coaching thing too, which is
Oh yeah.
another subject to.
Yes.
But we have a young lady on the team. She's a senior this year, Olivia Cebalo. She plays soccer in the fall. She's a really, really good soccer player. And she runs track in the spring, and she does a great job of separating the two. And I encourage it. Like,
Mhm.
I think
Mhm.
her being a soccer player makes her a better runner,
Mhm.
and I think the running makes her a better soccer player.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
That's
don't know.
good. You can meet
That's
in
just my
the.
2 cents on it. I don't
That's
know.
good. You can meet in the middle with that, and at least she understands it because that can be a battle as well. And you touched on a bit of the private coaching. That's another one. If we all had the secret sauce, is there anything specific you do where the seasons are long, athletes want to get better, but how do you navigate that? Where an athlete may, hey, I want to do some one-on-ones, whether it's with you or with other individuals outside of
Right.
the Carmel coaching staff. How do you navigate that? Because that's a thing now. I think it's growing even more.
I personally, I will tell everyone I don't know everything. I'm never going to know everything. And if I tell you I know everything, I should be done because I'm not learning myself.
Hmm.
So the outside coaching, as far as like kids going to get help in like hurdles or long jump, I'm okay with that. It's the people getting in private coaching that don't know anything or they're in it for themselves that take credit for the kids when all the credit should go to the kids.
Correct.
And hearing, private coaches that say, "Oh, I coach such and such, such and such, such and such." No, you had them for 2 weeks in the summer doing
Yeah.
drills, but you want to take credit for how hard they work
Right.
97% of the time.
Right. That's not
That's
true coaching. Yeah.
right. But then they get into the parents' ears and, they
Hmm.
like if they're paying money,
Right.
that they get some kind of value out of it,
Hmm.
where we'll coach a kid for free.
Hmm.
We do offer stuff in the summer for our kids that want to take us up on it. We have our coaches work with them in the summer, but with a few things. Part of me is, contemplating starting a club just to keep them away from people like that. And it's not fair to people who are actually in it for the
Right.
right reasons.
Absolutely.
And you're right,
Absolutely.
it's growing, it's getting bigger because I think people just see the money of it, and
Hmm. Hmm.
I just don't want a weightlifter coaching my distance runners or my sprinters. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and you have it where it's a lot of. I think they may pour into the parents and they give them some sort of
Yeah.
a false
Hmm.
idea or whatever it may be about what's happening with the kid. It's like, oh, I mean, football reference here. Oh, they're gonna be the next Peyton Manning. They need an individualized quarterback coach, and they could be running in the Olympics, and so forget school track altogether, or forget whatever track. It's that,
Right.
or forget club track. It's like that person
Yeah.
is the
Yeah.
pro is I think part of being involved in track and field is it's individual enough as it is, but then you
Hmm.
take a situation where you take a kid away from a team, and now it's
Hmm.
all individual, and that
Right.
coach may not be able to maintain them like mentally. Sometimes a kid
Right.
needs another kid to talk to.
Right.
They need
Right.
another person their age to be able to bounce things off of. They can relate. They have the same issues that whatever the test was hard in school this week. What,
Right.
they have all that similar stuff, the prom, whatever else. right? But if you take that away from them and you say you go and you just do all this stuff individually, there are extreme talents, and I do understand. Like the kid who ran in the Olympics, I don't. But he was still, the 16-year-old. I forget his.
Hmm.
Was it Wilson or Quincy? I think it's Quincy Wilson. He's like 16-year-old. The guy who ran on the four by
Talking about the
four.
400
About
kid.
four.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
400
Hmm.
kid. And even when he was at trials, he was representing his high school. It was
Right.
not that he was like, I'm just me running. I mean,
Right.
that's the type of thing that I'm talking about, like in that type of situation. You can have an extreme talent, but what are your thoughts on even like as a coach, if you get a talent that you've never had before? So say you get a kid that walks in the door and let's take like if you've got a kid like Lena Irby when she was in high school, would that be is that not a situation where you wouldn't necessarily want a private coach, but you would probably pull on a coach who could handle a talent such as?
Oh, well, I'm dreaming of that day, Coach Ware. um, Yeah, well, yeah. So I think that it would be first, I would have a conversation with our coaches, right? Like, and say, hey, like, we need to do this kid right. How are we going to do that? Have a conversation with parents. If we feel like we can handle it, we'd handle it. If we felt like we needed outside help, I think we would do that. I think it's only fair to the kid. Um, that's a tough one, though. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. But I
Well,
think even in your response, it's humbling, right? Where, I mean, you said it earlier. Anybody that says they know everything, the coach, like, oh, I know everything. But you being humble enough to say, even as a coach with all your years of experience, to really help the athlete grow and be their best, it may take not only my staff, but maybe additional help and doing it the right way too.
Right.
Having a conversation. I think that's humbling, and that speaks to you as a great coach to even think in that direction versus the other. No, we got it, and um, we'll figure it out. So,
Well,
yeah,
I'm always going to be the kids first. I mean, I'm not understanding how coaches get into coaching for themselves. I mean, obviously it's not money, but it's always the kids first, and you want the best for the kid. I don't know how that would outside help would look,
right, right,
but it's a good problem to have, I
right.
guess, if we're talking about somebody like that.
yeah.
Yeah,
And I think there's like I'm just like we're interviewing a lot of different kids around the city, and we have some extreme talents around the city in itself. I mean, we'll get further out than that, but I'm just saying, it's just looking in house. I'm like, where do these like how do you deal with that as like a coach? I mean, somebody could pop up like the kid. There's a kid over at Brebeuf who's like extremely talented.
Oh yeah,
There's a kid at two kids at Heritage. You got a kid at HSC, a couple at HSC. Like I'm like wondering like in terms of coaching staffs, if you get a kid like that, how do you handle that and make sure? I know it's supposed to be a team sport, but you have an individual who's like really sharp. So how do you focus a little bit more attention on them and make sure they're still getting what they need while the rest of your team is getting what
right.
it needs? And that's a challenge I think to most coaches because you want to be the one who can handle it, but even if you couldn't, I mean, it's good to know that, like, okay, we can pull somebody else in or build this up however we need to build it up. I think that is refreshing to know that there are coaches that humble
yeah.
that could
Wow.
be like that.
I
Very
hope
refreshing, Coach.
well, I hope I'm in the majority. I don't know if that's
Yeah, you are.
I,
You
I'm
speak, but I think your response was very refreshing to I think what we're seeing with some coaches who don't humble themselves enough to say, hey, well, maybe I need to take some courses, or maybe I need to study more, or tap into some of my other colleagues through other programs just to, bounce ideas off of each other. That's
right.
really important. And that speaks to how you put the athlete first, right? It's not about you as the coach shining, it's about what you can do to pour into that athlete to be a better
right.
athlete and perform well.
Well,
Yeah.
what's that old saying? If I'm gonna mess it up, some if you want to be great, surround yourself with great people. I don't know, something like
Yeah,
that.
it's something like that. Like the five people you surround yourself with.
Yeah, you're the mediocre or you're the
Yeah,
average person in the group, so surround yourself with
yeah. Because if you're the
Yeah.
smartest person in the group, you need to get out you need a new group.
Right. I'll tell you, they don't want me coaching pole vault. I know that. That's why.
But I bet you could figure it out since you love the adventure and the crazy of the meets. I bet you know
I
how
know
it's
enough
supposed to
about
look.
everything to be dangerous.
Exactly. Exactly. I love it.
I got you. Now, if one question, if with your team that you have coming up, if I was a college coach looking at your team, who would you want me, or who would you recommend I keep my eye on?
Ooh, are we talking young, old, down the
We're
board? We
we're talking just up and coming, somebody I should keep my eye on if I was a
right?
coach, and I mean, and you can hit all the different areas if you want to. If I'm a,
I got them all over, man.
Oh
and
yeah.
well,
They're
Go
all
for it.
we're okay with
Give
you
them a
naming
shout out.
names.
Yeah.
yeah,
Give
yeah.
them
So
a shout out.
And the other thing I want you to do is you're the head coach, but go ahead and you can shout out the rest of your staff
Yeah.
too, because
oh
we understand this. The whole staff makes it happen, and so I'm gonna let you shout out the staff, and then we'll let you go through those kids in the different areas.
gotcha. So we've had some coaching turnover in the past few years. Really happy with our staff this year. So I'm going to do the distance staff because they work with me directly. Um, and there's more of them because we have basically like 80 distance kids. Uh, Courtney Cooley helped out this year or last season with distance. But we're moving her to throws. She's actually a throws coach, but she did help out with distance. But I was lucky enough to get one of our former athletes, and you know this young lady, Jermaine, Haley Harris.
Mm.
She volunteered this season.
Wow.
Amazing for the girls. She was a Mental Attitude Award winner in high school for track. So she is a machine. We love having her on there. And then we got Alexander Wagner from Franklin Central. She moved to Carmel and wanted to coach, so we brought her on as well. So we're pretty excited to have those two. Courtney will be moving to throws, like I said, so she'll be taking over there. And then our sprint coaches, um, another one of our former athletes, and Jermaine coached her, Carly Markley. She's fantastic. She's great with the girls. And it's great to have young female coaches on a female track team
Yes.
because I'm going to tell you, as hip as I may think I am not that cool. So they communicate with the girls way better than I can sometimes. So I love having them on there. But Carly, she does sprints. She mostly does the relays, the 4x1 relay, and handles all the sprint stuff. Teddy Rogers, he's been coaching a long, long time. I want to say he's like in his 90th year, but he's only 50. But he coaches hurdles mostly, helps out with long jump, 4x1 relay, sprints. New this year, Rodney White, former HSA high jump champion, back in 93, I believe. He coaches our high jump and long jump. And then Drew Watson coaches pole vault. He's new also this past season. I think I got everybody in there.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
did. Now it's funny you said. So Haley and Carly were on the same team.
They were.
Yeah,
Haley was a little older.
yeah, but Carly was she was on that relay team, that
He
medal,
was on that
four
first
by
relay
one.
team to score for Carmel in the 4x1.
Yeah, nice.
How
Okay,
crazy
but
is that?
let's roll through those athletes we need to keep an eye on.
All right, athletes. Emily Norris, senior. Um, 100, 200, 400, long jump, 4x4. She can do a lot. Um, she could probably do an 800, but I don't know if she'd like it or not, but she's really, really good. All state, all 3 of her years. So far. Hopefully we'll see her do it again. And she's the one that split that 55 at the end of that 4x4.
You got to rub that in.
I'm good every chance I get.
You- yeah,
Every chance.
just motivation. You know how it
Yeah.
works.
Um, Gabby Rosas. She's a
Yes.
long jumper. She's gone to state twice in the long jump. She's going to be a junior this year, or she is a junior, I guess. 200, 400. She really likes the 400. She could run the 100. She's not a fan of it though. But those are her main ones. 4x4 also. She was on that state championship team. Olivia Cebolo, senior, 200, 400, 800,
Mm.
4x4, 4x8. She probably could run the 100 and be on the 4x1. I know Teddy really wants her there. He's only been asking for 3 years. She's a senior this year. She's someone to look at. She's still looking to commit somewhere. So hopefully she'll get some asks. Sadie Foley, who is a junior this year, 1600-meter runner, tip been under 5 few times. She runs the 32, also the 800, the 4x8. This year, she got into the 4x4. We had a Campbell Walmsley graduated, and we need a fourth this year, and she stepped up and ran on that squad at the state tournament. She did great. Emma Warner, sophomore this year, high jumper, qualified for the state meet, did really, really well. So we're pumped about her. Uh, Ellie Cooley, discus thrower. She just missed out of getting to state. We're looking for her to kind of step it up a little bit this year and hopefully get a point or two in state, maybe. Discus is tough this year, or it's been tough the past few years. What a crazy event. Olivia Munt, senior, 800, 1600, 3200. Larkin Taylor, the young lady I told you about, that ran the 213. She's going to be a sophomore. 800, 1632. Annabelle Pollard, 800, 4x8, 1632. I think I got all the top girls. I probably missed somebody. Charlotte Kono, she's been injured the last year. She's basically 3200 girl, but those are kind of the kids I'd look out for. We have more.
Yes,
Oh, well, with the
absolutely.
130 on the
You got a
team,
whole bunch.
And honestly, like a lot of
Y'all
those
deep.
kids could run somewhere in college, which is phenomenal. So any college coaches want to check out our kids, let me know.
yeah, well, the beautiful thing about track is there's so many different levels that you could run at. If you want to continue to run, you have the D3, DT, D2, D1, smaller D1s. There's a
And
lot of
AIA,
different levels. If you want to keep running, you can really keep running.
Mhm.
right. Really, yeah, D1 it's great, but you don't have to go to a D1 school.
Mhm.
There's some amazing D2 and D3 programs out there.
Yeah. And we interviewed another kid who was like, well, when I was looking at the D1 schools, they were like, I need you at this time and this time and this time. And he was like, but the coaches themselves at the smaller school were like, we can get you better and we want to see you get better. And he
Right.
went for that rather than, yeah, I can get the time, but are you really going to get me better or is this just like factory? Because
Right.
what a lot of kids I think miss is that, Coach Anna, you can speak to this. When you're at a D1 school, it is like this all business. It's not.
It's
It's
business.
no.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a job. It is a
Yeah,
job.
and people
You
are
are
like, "Oh, you got a
absolutely
scholarship? That's great." No, I got a job
right. Literally.
that I have to do schoolwork with. So that is what I have
Mhm.
now. It's not. It's just a scholarship. It is. I have a job. So I'm not
Right.
in control of my time anymore. Whereas in some of
Mhm.
the smaller schools, they get back a little bit more control of their time, and the experience is more theirs than it is. I went to work for IU. I went to work for
Right.
Purdue, or you know what I mean?
Right.
Mhm.
Sometimes if you don't pan out of those bigger schools, you're just kind of pushed back and
Mhm.
on your own, which is no
Mhm.
fun either.
Right.
Right. It's
So,
true. Yeah.
well, Coach, it was great having you.
Yes.
Oh,
Thank
I'm so excited to
you.
be on your show.
Yeah,
I
this
learned
is
so much, right? When you're at meets, you have little small talk, but
right.
being able to sit with you and get to know you better and find out how you uh, evolved into this role. Like your friend was like, "Hey, if I coach, you got to coach," and the rest is history. And here
Yeah,
you
let me
are,
let me
10
throw a
plus
shout
years.
out to that guy, Jeff
Yes,
Mueller.
yes.
Jeff Mueller, who is the CEO of Indiana Special Olympics. He was
Wow,
also the guy who kind of started the unified track and field unified.
wow,
So yeah, he's a good
Yeah.
dude.
awesome.
Yeah, he's a good dude
He's
70% of the time.
he's a real good dude. Most of the time. I'm gonna go with 80-90% of the time.
Hey, you guys can have him on. He can talk about unified track.